Hi, everybody. We'll just get everything set up here. But just a little introduction. I do have my own TV show, but I started my career when I was 17, professionally. I was working on toys for Star Wars and Disney and Pixar and all these things, and that's what really got me interested in the movie industry and the television industry. And from there, I very quickly started my own studio, worked on 5 films that never came out, and then got a chance to work with Tim Burton, one of my heroes, on Alice in Wonderland. There were only 3 character designers on the project, and myself and my wife were 2 of them. So that was a very, very special project for us. Through the time, of course, I also want to tell my own stories, right? And so when I made my own stories, I pitched them to different television studios, and they liked it, and then they bought it, and then they started developing it with me, and then it became like, oh, you should add a dog. Okay. Oh, my daughter loves cats. Put in a cat as well. And really? Okay. And then before you know it, they go, we don't like this show. It doesn't make sense anymore. And I go, well, yeah, because you put in all these things that wasn't part of the original story, which I'm sure many of us can relate to, right? So one night, some old college friends of mine that graduated with me, after college, they moved to the UK to sell stories themselves and create stories, and they developed stories and they sold stories, and same kind of thing. These stories kept changing after they sell it, and nothing came out. Over 10 years, they tried to sell stories and create TV shows, and nothing came out. And so when they came to Toronto to visit, sitting at my place, just having some drinks, having some talks, talking about war stories of trying to make our own TV shows, and nothing comes out, I said to them, you know what? We actually can change things here. Now things have changed, and with the new iPad, we can put out our own stories, untouched, and put it out into the world and see if anybody likes it. Let the world judge. And of course, they loved it. They loved the idea. And so we started to create our own story. Now, my background is very much like, my tendency is I'm not interested in things unless it's different, unless it's the first, unless we're really pushing the envelope. You know, I also created the first online art school called Schoolism.com 14 years ago, before Facebook, and there's over 100,000 people in our community now. As I said, I'm in Toronto, Canada, and I worked on Alice in Wonderland from Toronto, Canada. And that was very unusual too back then. You know, it's like, how are we gonna work together? Oh, through the internet. And people were like, okay. This was at a time when people were still nervous about using PayPal. You remember that? Buying things online, you're like, where's this money going? That was the time. And then, so when we started to talk about the iPad, I was very excited about this, because at that time there were some animated comic books, but it was all symbol animation. You know, you have these animations like this. I wanted to create something where, well, I explained to them like this. When I was a child and I was looking at my comic books, I remember looking at it in my backyard, just by myself, just sitting on the grass, reading the comic books. I would look at these comic books and I would say, please move, come to life. I won't tell anybody. And I would kind of concentrate and try to make them come to life, and of course they never came to life. And so I said to them this story, and then I said to them, you know what? now we can actually do this. We can give the children this experience where a comic book comes to life. And so we decided to make it traditionally, with 2D animation. Every drawing's different, to give the experience that drawings are coming to life. And that really excited everybody. Our team consisted of myself, my lovely wife, Kay Asadera, Jim Bryson, and my other buddy, Adam Jeffcoat. And so we started working on this thing. I want to give kind of like the 6 most important ingredients that we felt really contributed to the success of our TV show. One, of course, is story. It has to have a great story. It has to connect with the kids. No matter how beautiful or how big our budget is, we knew that the story must be a great one. So what was our story? Our story was about a little boy that was meant to grow up to become the protector of the world. But he's only 10, and something has happened, and he needs to be the protector of the world now, which a lot of times happens in our lives where we have to do something now and we don't totally feel ready, right? And that was something that really connected with us. However, Kay Asadera, she looked at this, and she's an amazing art director, designed the Cheshire Cat and the White Rabbit for Tim Burton and so on and so forth. She looked at this and said, I'm not interested in this. It's not epic enough. The story is epic. The whole entire world has gone into darkness, and this little boy with his one family heirloom needs to use this and defend the world. This needs to be an epic story. So she started to do some paintings. She started to create this world, a world that she felt belonged with the story that we're trying to sell. She started to tell us about, okay, this is the level we need to get to. It's just us, but we're the artists as well, and we have worked on feature films. Let's try to bring it as close to that level as possible. So we started to get to work. And that leads me to the second most important thing, is consistent effort. It was very important for us because we also have daytime jobs. We're still working in games or movies for other people, and this was very much a personal project. Talk about a small team, talk about a small project. It was only 4 of us working on this thing, trying to make it into a TV show. So we allocated time to work on Nico regularly, which was, night times, weekends, every waking minute that we could spare, we're working on this show. It took us 2 years of consistent effort. You don't want to put it down for too long because the freshness of the energy and all that stuff starts to disappear, right? And so consistently we would get together, talk, try to figure out, well, how is this going to work? How's the story going to work? Does everything look good? And so we started to build the world. In the end, we felt really good about the results. Here's a couple pages, a couple images to kind of give you a sense of what the app was like. Right? Every time you would click on a panel, it would come to life, not just by moving, but with sound, music, voices, and of course, animation. We opted to do something in 2D, of course, because we wanted the children to feel, and the viewers, because there are a lot of adults that loved the app as well. We wanted to give them that experience of a comic book coming to life. We felt that if it was in 3D, it would lose that magic of drawings coming to life. When we were 2/3 of the way done, we created a trailer and put it into a Kickstarter and to crowdsource. And of course, crowdsourcing is a great way to use Kickstarter, but also Kickstarter is a fantastic marketing tool, right? There's an urgency to it when you put it on there, and people that support your project, they feel like they need to help support it right now. And that becomes a really wonderful thing for overall awareness. And so I want to show you the trailer, the first trailer that we did for the Kickstarter, for the comic book app.
Many moons ago, the dark grew restless and decided it would rule. Time was running out. But there was hope.
And so with our Kickstarter, people could buy original art. We made an art book that people could also pledge for, and it was quite successful. You know, we asked for, I forget how much, but we doubled that amount pretty quickly. We didn't necessarily need the money, even though it did help. You know, Kickstarter, like I said, in the right circumstances, becomes an amazing marketing tool, and that's what we used it for. People could help support Nico and the Sword of Light by pledging money, and in turn, we would get great feedback about what we were doing and create buzz before the app was out. The animation industry was into it, especially because it was done mostly in traditional animation, and even for the 3D enthusiasts, you know, we tend to have a soft spot for the old traditional ways of animation. And that was part of the strategy. And there's another part of the strategy. For the techie kind of people, the people that love technology, they really love this app as well because it's the first of its kind. And those are the kind of things I'm always interested in. It was like their comic book was coming alive. So the Kickstarter went great, and after 2 years of our time, effort, and hard-earned money, because we funded it ourselves, we released the app on the App Store, and guess what happened? Nothing. We didn't sell anything. You know, it's very, very little sales, but a lot of times, throughout my career, trying to do innovative things, that's what life does to us, doesn't it? Even when we don't deserve it, even when we're putting in all that effort, life tends to throw a big rock in our face when we least expect it. But because that has happened many, many times before, this time we were ready. Here's one of the pages. That was a rough cut of one of the pages. As you can see, the final frame isn't finished. Here's another one.
A ram. Shaken, but she will survive. You are free now, my friend. Uh-oh!
One of my biggest inspirations is my grandmother. She's 101 years old today. She's turning 102 in a few months. She's lived through World War I, World War II. She's seen the invention of sliced bread. That's how old she is. She's been through many hardships, yet she always has a smile on her face. And that's just something that I really learned from her, is the best way to overcome life's challenges is to keep that smile on your face and keep marching forward, because that makes you that 1% of the people out there, right? And when you do that, life tends to reward you. And sometimes it doesn't reward you right away. Sometimes it throws another rock in your face, or maybe two more. That just means that the prize is even better. You know, so you just keep smiling, you keep going forward, and that's exactly what we did.
Yes, boy! You saved me from a life of greed! How can I ever repay the deed?
Well, friend, all I require is a safe passage out of this swamp.
Of course, young warrior! Strong is your will! The path you seek is through the hills!
So then the next step that we really needed, we needed to look for influencers to get the word out there, because we weren't selling anything, right? We did this by kind of reverse engineering Google. You know how you can search by words? Well, you can also search by images, right? So we took those comic books that had the symbol animation, we took their most popular images, and we searched Google. We uploaded those images, right? And when you do that, you'll see all the sites where that image will show up. And so we went to all the most popular blogs that had that image there, and we started contacting them and say, hey, we have a comic book app. It's completely traditionally animated, first of its kind. Would you do a story? Instead of trying to contact, 100 different people, we could concentrate and make our messages and make our pitch very specific to each blogger, each influencer, and we only had to go to a few. And it worked out amazingly well. After about 3 weeks of complete flatline sales, graphs, things like that, I got an email. And it was from the president of the App Store, globally. And each country has its different app store, but this guy, apparently, he's the one on top of them all. And he was saying that his child was a big fan of this comic book. And he said, I see that you've submitted an update for your comic book. I want to tell you that we've approved your update, and you should update it right now. I thought that was kind of weird.
Tell me, how do you plan to defeat the darkness, Nico?
So I thought that was kind of weird. I went to my iPad. I was like, okay, gonna update my app, and went to the App Store, and I saw on the front page of the App Store, it said Nico and the Sword of Light. Oh my goodness. Updated it, kind of shaking a little bit, and went to this site called App Annie, where you can track your apps, and we saw that it was number 1 in 7 different countries. By the end of the week, we were number 1 we were featured in 21 countries, and number 1 in our category in over 30 countries. And we just saw our graph just go like this, and then boop. And then everybody started calling, which brings me to the next one. We're doing this independently. So the next very important ingredient is to search out important partners. And if you do all the first 4 steps well, those partners will come out of everywhere. And that's exactly what happened. Microsoft called us, Don Han, producer of Lion King, called us. Many different companies called us. We ended up going with Amazon because we love the idea of streaming, to tell this continuous story. We love that idea. So we went with Amazon. We made a pilot and then put it out there. Did they green light us? No. They didn't green light us, but that was okay because that's not going to stop us, right? We knew to put a big smile on our face to keep going. And the company that animated it was Titmouse Studios, animation studios in LA, and they also sneakily started to submit our pilot to different awards for consideration. Before we knew it, we were nominated for several awards, won a few of them, including the Emmy for Outstanding Children's Animated Programming for 2016. Oh my goodness. And then somehow, miraculously, we were greenlit for a series shortly after. Today, it's been a total of 15 nominations with a total of 3 wins, and it's been quite the roller coaster. Looking back, one of the best things that helped us succeed, especially in the very beginning of developing the pilot, was that we weren't trying to be bossy. You know, we created the initial concept, but we tried to be as helpful as possible, just trying to share and contribute as much as possible, so that the people helping us to create this also felt like it belonged to them. In December, we launched the first half of our season 2 now. We're in season 2 of Nico and the Sword of Light, and we look forward to launching the second half of season 2 later. Not sure if it's announced yet, so I can't really say any dates. In closing, I want to express my thanks to my grandmother for teaching me about the power of smiling, because none of this would have been possible if we didn't have that positive attitude that kept us throughout the process going strong. So thank you. That's